Welcome back, fight fans. It's BLÜ-FC. I think it's episode 29. That's what I wrote down anyway. We're going to be talking about, well, first off, of course, last week, UFC Vegas 49, and then this week, UFC 272. And I'm actually not sure where that's being held, not going to lie. I kind of forgot to look that up. But we will start with UFC Vegas 49. What a card. Honestly, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't really expecting it to be this good. Like, it just the entire way through, it was an amazing card. It really was one of the best cards this year. It really was. Even though we didn't get the main event that was originally scheduled that we wanted, Dariush and Makhachev, it was still good. The only exception to that, the judges. What is going on now? Oh my God. Normally they ruin, they throw a couple of stupid cards out there, and then we think, oh, wow, what the fuck are they watching? But this time, not only did they completely ruin one fight, I honestly think they got the wrong decision on 3 different fights today, and they all negatively impacted the ones that I picked, of course. And I'm not just saying that because I picked them. I'm saying it because honestly, it was so laughable. One of them all over Twitter after, but even one of the other ones I saw on Twitter all over the place. So two of them I saw talked about quite a bit. And the third one, it was a little closer. I still think it should have gone the other way, but you know what? That one was a little closer. And we'll actually talk about that one first because it was the first fight of the night. I didn't talk about this on the broadcast last time, but it was on my on my picks for the Tapology, and I was honestly pretty upset because I ended up with a terrible record because of the judges. They ruined, like I said, 3 of mine. But anyway, so it started off, Carlos Hernandez beat Victor Altamirano by split decision. Like I said, it was very close. Obviously, split decision. Both of them from the Contender Series. Both of them brought a lot of offense, put everything they had into it. Honestly, this was, I mean, just because of all the other good fights, this wasn't necessarily one that I was thinking for Brawl of the Night. But when I was watching it, I was like, on some of the other cards, this might have been the best one of the night. It was really good. Hernandez might have won the first round with a late takedown, but honestly, it was so late that I didn't think it would make a difference. And then possibly won the third, and after he stumbled Altamirano. But honestly, like I said, second was definitely Altamirano, and the first round was kind of also Altamirano. It was just because of that late takedown, but it was so late that honestly he didn't get anything done with it. So really that shouldn't affect the judging really at all, which is why it's kind of like, I kind of think that one went the wrong way. But at least it was a split. So, I mean, at least there was kind of like, okay, at least they saw what I was seeing. That being said, nobody really knew which way the judges were going to lean with it, of course. It was really close. Both of them great debuts. It was, like I said, both of their first fights in the UFC. Fantastic for both of them. And in the end, like I said, split decision for Hernandez. It was really close, and they both looked really good. I thought it went to Altamirano, but again, they both looked so good. I wasn't super upset about this one. I think it was mostly just the buildup, the fact that 3 of them went the opposite way. That if you were watching the fight, you would have scored it. You would definitely have scored these 3 the other way if you were really paying attention. The second one, Ramiz Brahimaj, Michael Gilmore. I did not talk about this one last time, but I was thinking about it because I knew that Brahimaj was really good, and I also knew that Gilmore was going to lose this because he's just, you could tell just by watching him the other times that he's just not up to the same level. Gilmore, if you watched The Ultimate Fighter this season, he was a late replacement after somebody got injured. He came in the second round of fights there, lost that. And then they actually brought him back brought him on to that finale. Obviously, not fighting in one of the finale fights, but he was on that card. They brought him in again. And honestly, he just also didn't do very well. It was just not good. It wasn't even close. So, I mean, Brahima is so good. And if you've been watching it all, you would know that. So this was a very clear choice for a parlay, which is why I wrote him in the parlays if you were looking at that. And yeah, he got it done early. Submission in the first round. Less than a minute into the fight, Gilmore already found himself in a terrible situation. Brahimi on his back, cranking on his jaw. Good God. I mean, I can't even imagine how uncomfortable that would be. You don't normally tap from that, but it does hurt a lot. From there, it was really just a matter of time. Gilmore couldn't get anything going, couldn't get Ramirez away from his neck, honestly. And less than a minute after that, it was done. Rear naked choke. That was it. So yeah, another good fight for Brahimi. And I hate to say it, but I don't think we're going to be seeing Gilmore anymore. He seems like a great guy. I saw him, like I said, on did I say the Contender series? I don't know. The Ultimate Fighter anyway. I saw him on The Ultimate Fighter. He seemed like a great guy, really driven, really nice, but just not up to the same level. And that sucks to see, After that, Jonathan Martinez, Alejandro Perez, in another decision. Another great stand-up fight on this one. But instead of punches, we saw kicks, just nonstop kicks from both sides. And it's crazy to watch, honestly, because you don't normally see that. But it's so entertaining. It's so great to see so many kicks like that. It's crazy. The first round, I thought it was Martinez got the better strikes in. But that may have been overshadowed after he got dropped with 3 seconds left in the round. Yeah, honestly, if there was like 20 seconds after that, he probably would have been finished and that would have been it. So it's hard to say what happens in a round like that because he dominated the whole round and then gets knocked down and basically finished with 3 seconds left. So what do you do with that? I don't know. The second round, almost an exact copy of the first. Martinez controlled it up until the last 10 seconds again. He didn't get dropped, but still, it was like, okay, this isn't a good look with 10, 15 seconds left in each round. And then realizing that he's either 2 rounds down or tied, because, I mean, again, you dominate 4 minutes and 45 seconds of a round, you really should be winning. Perez came in heavy, tried to push the pace to get a finish. He didn't get the finish, but he definitely made the decision more exciting. I had it 29-28. The judges also had it 29-28, 29-28, and then somebody had it 30-27, which again, I suppose that's fair. It wasn't insane. And again, the right person won this time. So again, it's not crazy anyway. All for Martinez, like I said. My first prelim pick of the night that I had talked about last time, Terrence McKinney, Fares Ziam. I told you to watch this one, that you would not want to miss this one. And it was because McKinney has had 4 first-round finishes in a row. He was going for his 5th one. You always want to see that, especially when somebody gets a 7-second KO in their first UFC fight. You always want to know what they do in the second one. So I hope that you saw this one. I went with McKinney on this one, just because there's, he's got all the momentum, like I said. Plus, he obviously had the power. And ZM usually tends to go by decision. So I thought, maybe, if it gets to the late second, third round, maybe ZM can win this. But if McKinney can get it done early, that's really his only way to win. And, well, that's exactly what he did. He got it done very early, came out super explosive, wasted no time, excuse me, ran in, got a takedown within the first 10 seconds. And then he got his wrestling in. I did not know he was such a good wrestler. He is an amazing wrestler. Got Ziam's back right away, really. Well, not actually right away. It took him a while to get there, but he got there within about a minute and a half. And it looked as though Ziam was just going to struggle through the rest of the round with McKinney on his back or just getting controlled on the ground all over the place. But then out of nowhere, he tapped. It was kind of a weird one. I don't know why I'm coughing so much. I might need to have a drink of water. It was weird. It was like he was cranking his neck, but it didn't look all that tight. I don't know. It was a really bizarre one. But he tapped, and McKinney got the early finish for another first round finish. That is 5 first round finishes in less than 12 months for Terrence McKinney. That is unbelievable. And this one was by submission. So a whole new facet to the game that most of us who hadn't really seen him before didn't know about. But now we know. Now we know that McKinney is just as dangerous on the ground as on the feet. And that is terrifying because we can definitely see him getting into those rankings within the next, maybe even honestly this year. Depends who he fights and how he does. But I mean, with this all going on, I could see it. I could definitely see it. Fight number 5, Josiane? I don't know. Nunes versus Ramona Pascual. Excuse me. Again, I didn't talk about this one last time, but I was thinking about it because I knew how good Nunes was. And this was actually, I don't think I chose this one as a parlay because Pascual was so big going into this because Nunes is normally a bantamweight. Pascual was going into this as honestly a huge featherweight. I even wrote down here, it looked like a flyweight. Pascual was huge and Nunes looked tiny. It would basically look like me fighting against like Izzy or somebody like that, or even Usman, like me against Usman. That's what it looked like. Honestly, it really did. It was so wildly different sizes. But Nunes had the moments on the feet in the first round, actually dropped Pascual and outstruck her in the striking totals there. I was a little surprised by that. I thought she was going to get it done more. Oh, actually, I don't remember. No, I think I was. Yeah, no, I don't remember actually what I was thinking before because I've seen Nunes before. But anyway, the advantage for Pascual was evident really after she landed a takedown and controlled Nunes for the whole final minute of the first round there. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense because, like I said, Nunes much smaller. Pascual used that size, and Nunes just couldn't really get up after that. But really, in the second and third rounds, I mean, the striking ability was really the main story here. Dropped Pascual again with a huge shot, blitzed her with a couple of dozen unanswered strikes. And I had picked on Tapology, oh my God, that Nunes was going to get a second round KO. This was the second round. You saw a couple of dozen unanswered strikes. I thought 100% she was going to be getting it done in that exchange. And the ref let it go. And then Nunes didn't keep going. All she had to do, for real, is hit her maybe another 5 times. And that would have been it. I would have gotten my points. I would have gotten my second round TKO. But I digress. That's okay. Whatever. We still got it anyway. Nunes still won. And the third round, again, was really just more of Nunes on the feet. Pascual landed another takedown right at the end of the fight. Just kind of bizarre on her end, honestly, because it seemed like she could get the takedown pretty easily, actually, at the end of the round. But then not really the other 4 minutes. I don't know. I don't know if she wasn't pushing hard enough or maybe Nunes was doing something that we couldn't really tell that was preventing Pascual from getting it. I don't know, but it was really weird to see. Yeah. Easy one for the judges, though. Nunes clearly won all 3 rounds, and that's what the judges saw, too. And honestly, very impressive. Very impressive, seriously. To see somebody who is definitely not a featherweight, does not belong there at all, fight somebody who's so much bigger and still get a decision win. And that really just tells you how good Nunes is, which is why she was my pick going into it. Even though I didn't mention it on the broadcast, I did do it on Tapology. Anyway, the second one that I wanted to talk about from last time, Ignacio Bahamondes, Zhu Rong. I told everybody that they should watch this one because Bahamondes is so exciting. Rong is also a pretty similar kind of fighter. So I knew this was going to be very good. I knew this was going to be really good. And I thought this was going to be Bahamondes by decision because neither one of them have necessarily gotten a whole lot of finishes. They're also both pretty hard to they're both pretty tough. So I wasn't sure what we would see here. I definitely did not expect to see what we ended up seeing at the end, which was a submission by Bahamondes, who is a kickboxer. I did not expect that. I would not have thought that, which is exactly why, because I even said last time, I was like, these two guys are pure strikers. I don't think we're going to see any ground stuff at all. And I meant that, and I really thought that. But Bahamondes tricked everybody, got the submission. Amazing. If you would have put money on that, that would have been unbelievable. The odds on that must have been unreal. Probably in the plus 800, plus 1,000 range. Because I think that was his first submission win in his career. Oh, it is, actually. I wrote that down. Anyway, let's see. What did we see here? It started off a bit slow, feeling each other out. Pretty common in striking matches. But then it's slowly started to heat up, really, with Bahamondes pushing the pace a bit, got some numbers up on the board. You really using that experience because he knew, you got to get the numbers up to win the round. Rong tried to save the round with a late takedown, but he actually ended up on the bottom when he got taken down. So that's never good. Or when he got the takedown. So that's never good. And then after clearly losing that first round, Rong came back in the second. Aggressive change of pace. Like you would have thought that he was in the third round trying to save a horrible decision because he came in hard. Even with that extra output, though, Rong from Rong and some heavy shots thrown in, Ignacio still had more than double that output, which is absolutely insane. But that's also why I was saying to watch Bahamondes, because he's so good. He's so young, but yet so good. Finally, after 2 rounds of trying to get the fight to the ground, Rong got him down there. But Ignacio jumped up right away. He had no problem with doing that whatsoever. Just really stood up and got out of it. But interestingly, after that, you'd think he would just keep going on the feet, trying to get the KO and all that. But he actually got another takedown himself. Ended up getting the first submission win of his career. Like I said, another very impressive performance by Bahamondes. Unbelievable. I mean, he's so good. He really is. Then we got to the main card. And this is actually the second one. The second one that I said the judges messed up. And this one was pretty noticeable. And I saw people talk about it on Twitter, but even before that. And I was actually more upset than most of the people on Twitter, which says a lot. Maybe that's because, again, that was my pick. But still, this was ridiculous, honestly. I had Rodriguez going into this just because of the grappling. That's why I was trying to figure out why I had him. But yeah, it was all the grappling stuff. So they seem to be the same on the feet to me. They both seem to be just as tough. But I said that Rodriguez had the advantage because of the grappling, and Petrosyan had just come off the Contender series, so he hadn't fought any UFC level people yet. So just overall, I would say Rodriguez had the edge there. With this much power flying around, I mean, again, they took it fairly easy the first round. You see that a lot. I wasn't too surprised by that. But interestingly, Petrosyan almost tripled the striking numbers of Rodriguez in the first round. But it really looked, if you were watching it. So, I mean, the judges don't have the numbers. We don't have the numbers or anything when we're watching it. So if you were watching it, I swear everybody was saying, the analysts thought it too, that Rodriguez was controlling it. He had the extra power because he was definitely landing the harder shots, and it just looked like he was doing better, even though, like I said, Petrosyan tripled the numbers there. Yeah, what was I going to say here? This continued in the second round, really, and Rodriguez stumbled Arman a few times within the couple minutes of the round. So very clearly, Rodriguez won the second. I thought he even won the first already. So, I mean, that should already tell you that's 2 rounds to nothing, maybe, honestly, at that point. After staying on the feet for the first 2 rounds, Rodriguez pushed the fight to the ground, almost locked in a couple of different submissions before Arman got back to his feet. And by the end of the fight, really, both of them were battered and bloody. This was honestly a contender for my brawl of the night. I would say this one was in, what was this? I think this was probably about the second place. This wasn't actually my brawl of the night. But anyway, so I said, easily second round was Rodriguez. The first one could have even been Rodriguez. And I think most of the people thought the third round was Rodriguez. So, I mean, really, you could argue that it was even maybe 30-27 for Rodriguez. But I think most people thought it was 29-28. And I could totally see that. But not the judges. Not the judges. They had it 29-28, 29-28, and a baffling 30-27 for Petrosyan. Unbelievable. I don't, like, seriously, what are we doing at this point? Really? What are the judges doing at this point that they're doing that? Oh, actually, no, that's right. It was a split decision. Sorry. It was still 29-28, 29-28, but it was a 30-27 for Petrosyan on there, which is mind-blowing. Because like I said, in the second round, Rodriguez stumbled him quite a few times. So, I mean, you can't tell me that Petrosyan won that round. There's absolutely no way. I mean, judges like this shouldn't be there. And we'll talk more about that in a later fight too, but that was unbelievable. Very clearly, I would say even almost a robbery on that one. I mean, Rodriguez definitely earned that. And again, I'm not just saying that because he was my pick. It was just so obvious if you were really paying attention and watching the fight. Rodriguez very clearly won that. Whatever. After that, though, a very exciting fight. This one ended up being my brawl of the night. It was Tsarukyan and Alvarez. This was the second most exciting matchup on the card for me before anything even started. This was my second favorite one behind the main event, just because I knew we were going to see a dominant performance. But anyway, I had Alvarez by decision on this one because he just looked more well-rounded, I would say. What did I say here? Yeah, I thought he would get it from his ground control and clinch control. So I thought that grappling would come in handy, and that's why I picked Alvarez on this one. And I will say this is definitely the one on the card that I ended up getting wrong, where it was like, fair enough. The judges didn't screw me on this one. I just picked the wrong guy, sadly. I mean, Tsarukyan just really... Can you not? No. Stop. Loki's being an idiot right behind me. Get the fuck out of here. It started off amazing right away. Quickly went to the ground with Tsarukyan on top. And really, that was the problem. Alvarez found himself in a world of trouble, getting ripped open by a huge, huge elbow. If that wouldn't have happened, maybe we would have seen another fight. But I mean, I haven't seen this much blood in the octagon all year so far. And honestly, I didn't even see any for really the last half of 2021. So this was an insane amount of blood. It was all over the place, just absolutely covered. I mean, it was so much, like really somebody dumped a bucket of red stuff on his head. I mean, it was insane. Anyway, so I mean, when you've lost that much blood, and also it was in the worst spot. It was right here. Actually, no, it was right in the middle right there. So it was like going into both of his eyes when he was on the ground. Couldn't see anything at all. And that is going to be terrible when you're on the bottom and you need to see to survive. So not a good spot to be in. And really, when you're in that position, it's not going to be good. He did manage to get out of the first round, though. But because it was still bleeding, because the cut man just couldn't stop it. I mean, it was just so much. He got taken down again, and he just couldn't see properly at that point, and that was it. And just Tsarukyan got the TKO stoppage in the second round. So, I mean, yeah, after you land an elbow like that, you kind of know, like, okay, it's not going to last that much longer. Dominant performance by Tsarukyan there. Definitely somebody worthy of somebody in the top 10, I would say, in the next one. A lot of people are saying Gillespie. I could 100% see that. I would love to see that. That would be fantastic. And that would make a lot of sense. Gillespie is in 10th right now. A matchup that I would love to see, though, is against Hooker. Why not bring in Hooker? I think that would be very exciting, and it would honestly be tough for both of them. I really think that would be a good one for both of them. And I think that's got fight of the night written all over it. I'm slowly trying to get through my notes here. That's why. But yeah, the only problem, though, is Hooker is trying to move down to featherweight, which is mind-blowing to me. I mean, he's already a pretty big lightweight as it is. So the fact that he's actually somehow managing to go down to featherweight, I have absolutely no idea. I have no idea how his body's going to handle going down to there. But I mean, I obviously want to see it. If he can handle doing that, he's going to be dangerous down there. Dangerous. Because I think he's the same height as me. So like 5'11" or 6 feet tall, but like obviously way bigger than me. So yeah, that's insane that he's trying to go down there. But if he doesn't do that, I could see Tsarukyan fighting him, and then that would be, that could be the main card of a pay-per-view, or honestly, even its own main event, because that would be absolutely unbelievable. After that, the other one, this is the one that had everybody on Twitter going, what are these judges watching? It was Cachoeira and Kim. I had Kim by decision going into this. But honestly, I even said this was a complete coin toss, so I wasn't attached to either one on this. But because of the huge reach advantage, I was saying Kim. And that's really what a lot of other people were saying too. This was a very odd choice, I will say. Actually, no, that's right. That wasn't my fight of the night. This was my fight of the night, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. This one was my fight of the night. And it was also the one that the judges had wrong. But anyway, it seemed originally like a very odd choice to have on the main card. But after seeing it, I was like, I take that back. This was very good. It was an amazing fight, and which makes it even worse that the wrong person won here. Cachoeira, okay, where we go. The first 2 rounds were pretty close. Kim seemed to be landing ahead thanks to the output. She just had the better numbers, and it looked like she was winning. Cachoeira was landing some of the harder shots, a couple of big ones here and there, but nowhere near as many as Kim. So it looked super obvious that Kim was winning this. And this was made even clear just by looking at them. I mean, you didn't even have to be watching the fight too much to know that Kim was definitely winning the fight. Nothing on her face. She ended up after the fight with literally just one scratch on her face that was bleeding a bit. And Cachoeira's face was just like literally looked like a tomato. It was so smashed up and scratched and bruised and battered. It was swollen. I mean, just those jabs, jab after jab after jab. That's what I'm saying. It was so dominant on the feet that to score it any other way is criminal. It really is. What was I going to say here? In the third round, that's really when the fight exploded. And that is why it got brawl of the night for me. And the UFC also gave it fight of the night. I could definitely see why. And it's very rare for a women's fight to get that. And I hate to say it, but it is true. Especially recently, especially in 2022. We haven't seen very many good women's fights yet. They've either been one-sided or they've been kind of meh. But this one was fantastic. And I wish all the women's fights were like this. They both got stumbled in the last one. They both got cut up. cut up, and they both got wobbled, and they were both bleeding by the end. Obviously, one of them more than the other. It seemed as though, especially after all the damage that Kim had done in the final round there, it seemed like Kim had done enough to win. I mean, really, it seemed so clear that Kim had won it. I had the fight 29-28 for Kim. I forget which round I had for Cachoeira. It might have been the second. I'm not sure. But yeah, it was pretty clear. And even the analyst said it. Everyone on the internet said it. But the judges saw it unanimously. All three of them saw it. 29-28 for Cachoeira. Unbelievable. And this, again, started a huge uproar online. And it was even bad enough. And this is the only time I've ever seen an announcer do this. And Felder doesn't do this normally either. But Felder himself said on the broadcast that he thought Kim had done enough to win, and that he thought it was kind of ridiculous, actually, that the judges saw it the other way, because it was so clearly Kim. Like, yeah, it was so, I mean, unbelievable. And yet again, that fucked me over, because that was, again, my pick. So that was 3 on the night that I had, that the judges had the other way. 2 of them online, people agreed with me, especially that last one that Kim won. I mean, unbelievable. You got to figure out these judges. I mean, that's not even, like, you're ruining people's careers here. Like, I don't know. It's, what can you say? We did a whole stream on it before. That's on YouTube if you want to check it out. I made some suggestions there as to what we could do to help this judging situation. But honestly, we need to do something, anything, because this is absolutely insane that this is still happening, especially on that level where it wasn't even a split decision. It was unanimously definitely wrong. And I actually made my pick for the worst judges card of the month. That was a close second. I was thinking of actually even making a new one for maybe the worst decision, or even including this as the worst card of the month. But I had to give it to that other one with Modafferi somehow winning 29-28 over O'Neal. That was so ridiculous that when I saw it happen, I actually burst out laughing. It was so bad. And I actually tweeted about it. It was so bad too, which I don't tend to do, because I don't really like taking wins away from people like that, or taking, especially when Modafferi was retiring. I don't like to do stuff like that, but I mean, come on. That was unbelievable when I saw that one. Anyway, co-main event. Misha Cirkunov, Wellington Turman. I don't know why this was the co-main. Nobody knew why this was the co-main. Very odd choice for it. Strange. But we knew it was going to be a tight matchup, at least. Well, that's what I thought it was going to be anyway. Cirkunov had the 5-inch reach advantage. He used to be at light heavyweight, came down to middleweight here. So that's really why I gave him the edge here, because I thought, well, if he's KOing light heavyweights, he can definitely handle the middleweights. So I thought that's how it was going to go. So I had Cirkunov by decision, because Turman's tough, so I didn't think he was going to get a finish. And the fight opened with a lot of grappling, actually, from both guys. Misha got into a bad spot, first of all, with Turman on his back, somehow managed to slip out of it. And then he ended up getting Turman into a bad spot, threw down some heavy ground and pound, sunk in a deep submission attempt, easily got the first round there, I would say, because of all that. And really, it seemed as though Cirkunov was going to continue that the whole second round, because he landed himself on top again. I thought he was going to keep going and take the decision that way pretty easily. But then out of nowhere, he got slipped into a really bad spot and tapped immediately, with Turman getting a devastating armbar. Like, seriously, if the ref wouldn't have stopped it, I would say less than a second later, he probably would have broken his arm. It was that bad. Yeah, he tapped immediately. It was in such a bad position. So we had Turman beating Cirkunov by submission in the second round. And honestly, I wouldn't even say that Cirkunov looked that bad. He just got stuck in a really bad spot in a split second wrong move. That's really all that happened. And that sucks, because that was my pick. But anyway, the main event after that, Islam Makhachev, Bobby Green. I mean, We knew this is exactly what was going to happen. I said it. We all knew it was going to happen too. I didn't even need to say it. And he was what, like a minus 850 favorite. I mean, it was actually, you know what? When it closed, I looked up at the Bet99 odds. I think it actually went up all the way to minus 1,000. When I put the money down, it was minus 850, I think. And when I had it on the broadcast, it was actually even lower. I think it was minus 800 or so. So yeah, closed at about minus 1,000 for this exact reason. I mean, everything was in Islam's direction. I mean, he already has a hard time cutting down to lightweight, and he didn't have to do that this time. Instead of 155, it was a catch weight bout at 160, so he didn't even have to cut weight. Not only that, he was prepared for the big fight. And Green wasn't. He came in on less than 2 weeks notice after just fighting. So he wasn't prepared for that at all, obviously. And, you know, Green isn't ranked. He can fight somebody ranked, maybe 10 to 15, but not somebody like Islam at all. So, I mean, there was just everything was wildly in favor of Islam. So, of course, I was saying first round or second round finish here. And that's exactly what we saw. Green tried to keep the fight on the feet as long as he could. And he wasn't doing horrible. Like, it wasn't horrible. But, it was just too much. Islam just used his ridiculous wrestling power, dragged him to the ground, and got a good angle in to get the submission. What else did we think was going to happen? Ultimately, he opted to lay out he didn't get the submission. What am I talking about? Got some heavy ground and pound to finish the fight with a TKO win. Some people complain that the fight was stopped prematurely. Maybe, I could argue, okay, I was even thinking it too. I was like, okay, maybe it was like 5-10 seconds too early. But when you see that, what do you think is going to happen 15-20 seconds from now? Like, do you think Green's just going to somehow magically get back up, magically going to start fighting back when he's getting his face smashed in and going like this? No, he's done. Like, nothing good was going to come of that. The stoppage is fine. He lost. Like, nothing else was going to happen there except for more ground and pound, maybe even a submission win right after that. So I totally see that. I mean, come on. After that, Islam calling for a title shot after Gaethje gets his shot at Oliveira next. That makes the most sense to me because Gaethje already basically locked up that title shot. We've talked about it before. Oliveira wants it. Gaethje wants it. It just makes sense. So we get that done. And then after that, Islam makes sense. But and you know what? A lot of people are complaining that Islam is getting a title shot off of this. He's not. Like, we just have to remember that. Keep that in mind, that he's not getting a title shot after a win over Green. He's getting a title shot because of what he did before Green. It has nothing to do with Green. He's just getting a title shot. That's all. You don't have to bring Green into this. He's getting his title shot for other reasons. And you know what? I think he already kind of deserves it. But I will say, I think that he does need to take one more fight before that. Because if you really calculate it out, we're not seeing Oliveira fight until I believe it's at least June or July. So that's already months down the road. And then not only that, but you'd have to wait three-ish months after that for Oliveira, probably. I'm just assuming Oliveira is going to win that one. Oliveira to recover and then get back in there to fight again for another title fight. So we're talking like 6-8 months down the road. Are we going to really do that? It just makes sense that Islam should get at least one more fight in before that. And the one that makes the most sense, obviously, is the one that was supposed to happen against Dariush. That makes a lot of sense. I think that needs to happen. And you know what? Then it would make sense because those are really the only two people that make sense to even get a title shot, even though I don't think Dariush deserves it at all because he hasn't really beat anybody. But that's beside the point. They're the only two that are at the top right now that haven't got the title shot. So it just makes sense that they should fight each other. And then the winner of that gets the title shot. It just makes sense. And as for everybody saying Conor is getting a title shot, and for some reason Dana White's entertaining this bizarre idea, I love Conor McGregor. He is, I would say, my second favorite fighter right now, just behind Suga. Suga Sean is my favorite for sure. But even I say it would be absolute lunacy. It would be absolutely ludicrous for Conor McGregor to get a title shot after literally losing his last two fights and snapping his leg in half to go into a title fight against one of the best lightweights that we've ever seen. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I just can't even believe that that's being entertained as an idea. Even though, like I said, I love Conor McGregor, it just doesn't make any sense. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. Personally, I still think it should be Chandler and McGregor. It makes a lot of sense. Make that happen. And by the way, that's an easy fight of the night right there. That's pretty much guaranteed, locked up fight of the night right there, McGregor Chandler. That's going to be unbelievable. And I hope, even if it's not the next fight, that is at some point going to happen, because take my money now. That is a main event worthy of a pay-per-view right there. That would be unbelievable. But anyway, let's not talk about McGregor. He doesn't even deserve to be in this conversation. Like I said, Islam should probably fight Dariush, and then Oliveira Gaethje. I think that's what we're going to be seeing. That's what we should be seeing. So I hope that that's what we're seeing. And as for Bobby Green, this shouldn't factor into anything, honestly. We should just forget that this even happened. I really do think that. Just forget that he fought Islam here. Just pretend that he won a couple weeks ago, take that win, and give him somebody ranked within the top, 10 to 15 range. Give him somebody like that. Forget this one even happened and move on, because he's so good. I mean, he's so good. And you know what? He didn't do horrible in this fight. He was just not necessarily that prepared for it. So give him somebody good. So, what were my bonuses for the night? Well, my KO of the night was Sarukian. My sub of the night, well, I mean, really, there was only 2 KOs that happened the entire night, and that was Sarukian and Islam. And considering Islam didn't even really get a TKO, I mean, the ref kind of stopped it early, and it wasn't even that entertaining. No, I'm not giving that a KO of the night. So Sarukian obviously got the KO of the night. And I mean, with that much blood flying around, why not? Why not give him the KO of the night? Sub of the night. I mean, you first round submission like that with like McKinney, had to give it to McKinney there. Unbelievable. Turman was a close second though, because of that armbar, but McKinney, very good. Very, very good. Very impressive. And brawl of the night, like I said, after I remembered, Priscilla Cachoeira and Jiyeon Kim. It was so good. Easily the best women's fight of the year so far. And I hope that we see women's fights like that all year round for the rest of the year. I hope we do, because we need more entertaining women's fights. I mean, people are starting to actually like turn away from the TV when the women are fighting now, because it's been so lackluster and they haven't been bringing it. I mean, like, I've been entertained because I watch every single fight. But I mean, I see it online and people are like, well, the women are fighting, I'm going to leave now. I mean, we need to have more entertaining fights so these women get the platform, because they're so good. They're so talented. We need the better fights, and we need more fights. I mean, we have like one a card now. Like, we need way more. We need at least, I'm not saying we need to go 50-50, because that just actually wouldn't even make any sense, because there's way more men's divisions. But at least 3 or 4 fights every card. I mean, 3 or 4 out of, 11 or 12? Come on. Like, let's do that at least. Let's do that. Get the women going. Like, I mean, 1 or 2 fights a card, that's ridiculous. How are you trying to grow a sport if you can't even put more than 2 women's fight on a card? Like, I don't know. Get it going. Get it going. The most valuable fighter for me was also Terrence McKinney, because, again, 5th first-round finish in a row, clearly worthy of an extra bonus there. And not only did he get another early finish, he did it by submission, which, 4 first-round KOs in a row to go to a submission to prove that he's not just a power puncher. He's also a wrestler. That to me deserved the most valuable fighter because we need more people like that. So before we move on to UFC 272, we will go for a quick little tiny 30-second break or so. I will see after this.
Allow me to introduce High Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating victory or drinking to defeat, High Stick Vodka is better after every shot. Visit us at highstickvodka.com. It also comes in this regular bottle. Celebrate victory. Drink responsibly.
And we're back. UFC 272. I mean, there's no titles on this pay-per-view, but I think it's honestly the most exciting all-around card that we've seen in 2022 yet. It is so good. I considered it talking about every single fight on this card because every single fight, seriously, every single one on this card offers something very entertaining, and I cannot wait to watch every single one of these. And I haven't had that on a card in a very long time. I'm so excited for this card. Again, no title fights, but it's just that good. So we're not going to do that, though. We'll talk about the main card, and then I have a couple of the prelims that I'll talk about. But we're not going to talk about every single one of them, even though I wouldn't mind doing that. We just don't have time for that. The first one, Sergey Spivak, Greg Hardy. Very strange choice for a main card, I will say. I mean, it's obviously because everybody wants to see Hardy lose, and that's why he's on the main card. But does that matchup deserve a main card spot, especially considering all of the amazing prelims we have? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Honestly, even having it in a featured prelim spot would make a lot more sense. Anyway, odd choice, but we'll move on. And it's also slanted heavily in one direction, I would say. Well, I mean, maybe not heavily, but definitely in one direction. Let's see, what have we got here? You've got Spivak. Yes, he lost horribly in his last one against Aspinall, but Aspinall is so good. I mean, you can't take anything off of Spivak for that. He's still got a very impressive record in the UFC with wins over Tuivasa, Vandera, and Alexei Olenek there. So, and he's also only just started his career. He's only 27, only been in there since 2019. So, you know. And as for Greg Hardy, he is on the opposite side of the spectrum and hopefully on his way out of the UFC. I would hope so, because nobody likes him. Nobody wants to see him. Everybody wants to see him lose. And he has been losing a lot. So 3 losses in his last 5. Hopefully will be number 4 here. The experience, again, also leaning towards Spivak, even though he's younger. There's only one advantage in Hardy's case in this one, and that is that he comes in around 20 pounds heavier than Spivak. By the way, I read something absolutely just nuts on Twitter today that Hardy was saying at press. I think he either said it today or yesterday, that Hardy comes in, he walks around at around 300 pounds, and he is currently 291 pounds today. That means that he'll be losing 25 pounds before Friday to make weight for this. That's unbelievable. That's just ridiculous. Like, I hate that so much. But I mean, it's just so mind-blowing. And then you've got Spivak on the opposite side of that, who regularly comes in at around 240. So there's a very clear size advantage for Hardy here. But Hardy's also not very skilled and very slow. So Spivak still has a very clear advantage here. But when you're that heavy, you could get lucky and land a punch, which is what he's done in the past. So definitely not out of the question. But it's still a pretty easy pick to go with Spivak here. And I'm going to say he's probably still going to get, I think we're going to see a finish on either side here. I don't really see this going to a decision. We might see Spivak get to a decision here, in which case Spivak would definitely win. But I think we could easily see Spivak finish here. And if you go to the odds, show me that ticker, the banner. We've got Spivak here. That's who we were looking at. Spivak is sitting at minus 209. Hardy is at plus 166 right now. And yeah, honestly, that's pretty generous, I would say. I would say minus 209 is very good to jump on. And honestly, that's a good choice for a parlay. It really is, because that's going to bring the odds down quite a bit for a parlay. And I just don't really see Hardy overcoming any of this at all. Just the universe. You know, I think the universe is going to help us out with this one and let Hardy lose. I think so. You know, that's just what we're all hoping. But anyway, Spivak, amazing choice here. Even good for a parlay, I would say. And if you're looking at the over-under is set at 1.5 rounds right now. Minus 150 for over. And under is at plus 116. That's very interesting. That is very interesting. I would say similar to a lot of heavyweight fights, the first round is probably going to be pretty slow. And Spivak doesn't necessarily want to jump in with somebody that's as big as Hardy. So I would say it actually might be a good idea to go with the over on this one at minus 150 for 1.5. But, you know, we're talking about two heavyweights and a massive, massive heavyweight. So under at plus 116, not the worst idea to throw a couple bucks on that, really. After that, oh my God, this is one of the ones that I'm most excited about. But again, they're all exciting. Kevin Holland, the return of Kevin Holland against Alex Oliveira. Never a boring fight when Kevin Holland is involved. Weird one in his last one, of course. That was the no contest against Dawkins, where he was flash KO'd basically by that accidental clash of heads. Like I said, ruled a no contest. Of course, he lost his last two before that. But honestly, I don't think we should be focusing too much on that because, yes, he lost those two. And it was very clear why. He did not have the wrestling capability to go with two of the best wrestlers really in the middleweight division. I would say the two best wrestlers by far in the middleweight division. And that would be Vettori and Brunson, especially Vettori. Excuse me. My throat's starting to hurt now too. I'm falling apart. Of course, we're already almost an hour in and we just started. Anyway, before that though, this is why you can just forget about those other two. 5 wins in 2020. I think he might have been one of the fighters he was nominated for Fighter of the Year. I don't know if he won it or not. I can't remember. But easily one of the best runs in UFC history, definitely in recent history. 5 wins in 1 year. That is unbelievable. And that's all because of his crazy striking ability, his one-punch power for the middleweight division. And again, I was talking about middleweights the whole time, but guess what? This one is his first one in the welterweight division. So he's actually going down. So he's going to have even more power. And not only that, by the way, if you've ever looked into people's reach and if you've wondered, you know, what the longest reach is, I don't actually know what the longest reach is. I should have looked that up. But I know for a fact that Kevin Holland has one of the longest reaches in the entire UFC. and he was fighting at middleweight. Now he's at welterweight with one of the longest reaches in the UFC, and that includes heavyweights. He's got an 81-inch reach. 81 inches. That is almost 7 feet. That is unbelievable. That is seriously unreal that is even a thing. So he always, without question, has a reach advantage. And I believe he's got maybe a 9-inch reach advantage in this one. So it's absolutely unbelievable. Not only that, I mean, yes, he doesn't necessarily have the wrestling, but he showed in his last one that he can actually prevent people from taking him down now, which will help immensely. But that won't even matter because Oliveira is not an amazing wrestler. He's not Vettori. He is not Brunson. He is more of a striker and does have some wrestling, but not good enough to compete on that level. Definitely not with somebody as big as Holland and as tall and as extremely ridiculously long as Holland. So advantages all over the place for Holland. And I think we're for sure going to be seeing Kevin Holland get another highlight reel KO here. And I cannot wait to see it. I mean, oh my God, see all that trash talk and see a KO in here. Oh my God, I can't wait to see it. So I'm going Holland by finish. And we go to the odds over here. And I wouldn't say they're heavily favoring Holland, but they are definitely favoring him. They've got plus 250 for Oliveira. Kevin Holland minus 325. That's fair. I mean, you know, I wouldn't give him anything like the 400, 500 range, even though he probably kind of deserves it in this one. Yeah. So easy choice, very easy choice for a parlay here. We'll talk about the parlays later, but that's a very, very clear choice for a parlay. The over-under on this one makes a lot of sense. Over-under 1.5 rounds, minus 163 for over 1.5, plus 128 for under. And that's actually pretty fair. Like I said, I would say we're definitely seeing a Holland KO here, but when? Can he get it in the first round? I don't know. But considering all those advantages, it might honestly be a good idea to throw a couple bucks on that under at plus 128. He could easily do that. Easily, without question, do that. So to me, why not? Why not throw a couple bucks on that one? That's a good choice to just sprinkle a little bit on. After that, another banger, another great fight. Edson Barboza, Bryce Mitchell. As if this wasn't good enough, this card. I mean, another 2 ranked fighters, this time in the featherweight division. Barboza. I mean, if you don't know who Barboza is, do you even watch the UFC? Like, he's been around since when here? 2010. He's been around since 2010. And the only reason, if you look at his record does not look good at face value. But you know why that is? He's been in the rankings for basically a decade. So basically what he's done is he's gone from winning. So he'll win a few, go up to like 8th or 9th, and then he'll lose a couple and go down to like 13, 14. And he'll just bounce around the rankings like that. And he's done that for the past 10 years. So yes, he's lost a lot, but it's always against really, really good people. He's not losing to a bunch of scrubs. He's losing to the best in the division. And he's also beating some of the best in the division. So again, do not take his record into consideration here. He is unbelievably good. And he is very well known as one of the best strikers in the division. So Mitchell, on the other hand, way less experienced, obviously, came off the Ultimate Fighter in 2018, and he's got an undefeated record actually at 14-0. And an interesting fact, he's also one of the only people who's ever gotten a twister submission in the UFC, which is amazing. That's crazy. I love it when I see that because I've only actually seen somebody land it once, and it was absolutely insane. And I saw I think on 2 separate other occasions, I saw somebody almost get it. but it is so rare and it's so crazy to see. And Mitchell has one of them. Anyway, so this is really a toss-up. It could go either way here. Barboza is an elite striker. I mean, obviously on a whole other level that Mitchell has not seen before. And that's why it's so close. Yes, Mitchell is undefeated, but he's never seen anybody even close to as good of a striker as Barboza. He is so good. But because of what we saw in Barboza's last fight, which was Giga, a kickboxer, he got controlled in the grappling by a kickboxer. So to me, when he's fighting an actual dominant grappler like Mitchell, I think he's actually going to have kind of a problem. I'm not saying that Mitchell is going to do this easily. He's not going to do this easily because he's going to get ripped apart by Barboza's kicks, because Barboza's kicks are infamous for being just lightning quick and devastatingly hard. So Mitchell's got to deal with that, and he's got to deal with, again, all the combos, just all the elbows, the punches, everything coming from Barboza. But I still think Mitchell is going to get in the grappling, get him along the fence, maybe even get him to the ground to win there. I do think, though, we're probably going to see a decision. I don't think that Barboza is going to be submitted by anything. He's too good, too experienced to be submitted by somebody like Mitchell. I just don't see that happening. But I think we're going to be seeing a decision win here because he'll be using that grappling to control all that amazing striking ability from Edson. And if you go to the odds, they're also very close. Plus 133 for Barboza. Mitchell's at minus 163. Again, makes a lot of sense. I would still put the money on Mitchell there. Minus 163 is a pretty good odd for that. I would go in that direction. The over-under, though, very interesting, based especially on what I just said. It's over under 2.5. Minus 110 for over and minus 117 for under. Like I said, with all the grappling and the fact that Barboza is one of the toughest people out there, I don't think we're going to be seeing a finish. So I think the over is the very clear choice here, especially at minus 110. Those are fantastic odds for these two. Definitely put a little bit on that minus 110. That looks fantastic. And then in the co-main, it just keeps getting better. You've got RDA. By the way, this was a last-minute replacement. It was originally, of course, as we were all excited to see, it was going to be RDA, Rafael dos Anjos. I don't remember how to pronounce it because people pronounce it so differently. I don't even know how to pronounce it, actually. Against Renato Moicano. I think it actually might be Renato Moicano. But anyway, so that it was supposed to be Fiziev. He pulled out because he got COVID. Super unlucky because he was fine. He was fine the whole time. Got on the plane, got to the hotel, found out that he got it on the plane. And that's just so unlucky. That's terrible, terrible news. We wanted to see that. Maybe we will eventually, but not today. Not this week. We'll be seeing Dos Anjos and Moicano instead. What was I going to say here? This is kind of similar to what we saw in the last one with Islam and Bobby. Not as one-sided, I will say. Definitely not as one-sided, but we're seeing one person who's very much prepared and one person who's not. They're both very, very experienced. They both got amazing records. But what it really comes down to here is that preparation, and that RDA came in prepared for, by the way, a 5-round fight. This is not a main event, but it will be 5 rounds because this was supposed to be the main event last week. This was supposed to be the main event. No, 2 weeks ago. Sorry. Or last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember now. No, it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So this was supposed to be the main event then. So what they actually did was they moved it to here and said, let's keep the 5 rounds. We wanted to do 5 rounds. Let's keep the 5 rounds. I thought they would have switched that. I thought they would have changed that to be 3 rounds after they changed the opponent, but they did not do that. They kept it at 5 rounds. So you've got Dos Anjos, who's prepared to do 5 rounds and who already has no problem with 5 rounds at all. He's got one of the best cardio systems out of anybody in the UFC. He does not stop moving. And if you saw his last fight against Paul Felder, you would have seen how good he is and how he never, ever gets tired. So you're talking about somebody like that who could really pop out a 5-round event at any point. But to be prepared for it and be prepared for somebody as amazingly talented as Fiziev to go to somebody like Moicano, who is not at that level. And not only that, Moicano is coming into this fight on 4 or 5 days notice. He's coming in on 5 days notice into a 5-round event. And he also fought a couple weeks ago. So he's still recovering from a couple weeks ago. And he's got to prepare for a 5-round event. I just don't see it happening for him. It's just not. It's just they're just not lining up properly. And I don't think Moicano is going to be prepared for that, especially against somebody as amazing as RDA. So I think I wouldn't say that it's wildly in favor of Dos Anjos, but I do think that he's very clearly going to be winning the decision here. I do think we're going to be seeing a decision still. What else did I write here? Cardio. Yep. He's also an elite striker and grappler, so he's extremely well-rounded. So, nothing Moicano is going to do is going to phase Dos Anjos here at all. But yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing a finish. I thought I wrote why, but that's kind of just based on what I said there, really. They're really not into finishes, either one of them. They're in a lot of decisions, so it makes a lot of sense. So I think we're going to be seeing a dominant decision win by RDA here. And if you go to the odds, it is RDA sitting at -167, Moicano at +136. Really, based on especially what I just said. Like I said, it's a 5-round it's not a main event. 5-round fight. Moicano just fought 2 weeks ago. He is not prepared for this kind of fight at all. I think this is wildly generous to say that he's at +136. Amazing odds to put on RDA here. I don't know if I would put it in a parlay. I might actually make it its own parlay to add this into another parlay. But I mean, -167, those are absolutely incredible odds for this one. I'm definitely throwing some money at this one. And if you look at the over-under, it actually changed while I was talking. So somebody's been betting a little bit on this. The over-under is set at 4.5 right now. The over 4.5 is at -115, and the under is at -112. I mean, again, it's a coin toss. That's why they've got it like that. I'm saying you're probably seeing a decision here, so -115 makes a lot of sense. But you know what? With somebody this unprepared and against somebody this dominant, you might actually see a finish. And at -112 for 4.5 rounds to get that far, it might honestly be an idea to throw a little bit on that under at -112. It's not a terrible idea. But you know what? You could go either way on this. Either one would make a lot of sense. You do you on that one. It's so close. I mean, you could go either way. The main event. The appeal of this matchup, obviously, is because of the history that these two have. They used to be training partners, best friends, roommates, everything really. Lovers. No, I'm just kidding. Masvidal, extremely dangerous and exciting striker, while Covington is an amazing, dominant wrestler. And although I don't like Covington, I have to say that he is that good. He is very good. And I mean, he proved that against Usman. He's the only person who's even really come close to beating Usman. And we don't even really need to talk about the other fights that they've had, because really both of them have had 2 title fights in their last few fights. So against Usman. So that's really, all we need to talk about. And really, that's why I'm picking. I mean, that's why everybody's really picking actually. And he's got maybe I don't know. He might even have the best wrestling in the division. Besides, of course, I mean, we're not including Chimaev in this. I would say Chimaev very clearly has the best wrestling out of anybody. But we're talking in like the top 5. Out of these guys here, Covington very clearly has the best wrestling here. And Masvidal, I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance. He's definitely got amazing boxing. But I just, when it's that different, you've got to go based on styles, obviously, in this one. And Covington just has the much better style matchup here. What was I going to say here? Masvidal probably has that edge on the feet, but honestly, it doesn't matter. Covington doesn't need to engage on the feet. He will engage because that's who he is. He's a showman. He wants to make it an insane fight for the fans. So I know exactly what he's going to do. And, you could break this to the bank. I mean, it's so obvious what he's going to do. He's going to come in, do a stand-up fight, do some striking with Masvidal, get probably, hit a little bit, probably start bleeding a little bit. And then as soon as he feels like, okay, I'm not going to win the round like this, he's going to throw in the grappling. He's going to throw him along the fence, try and go for a takedown. And then he'll probably win the round like that. He's going to do that pretty much every round, at least 3 or 4 of the rounds, just to make sure that he wins the decision. But that's exactly what he's going to do. He wants to make it an exciting fight, and he's not going to try and, he wants to win. He knows how he is going to win. He's going to do that. So yes, he's going to make it entertaining by doing a bit of stand-up fight, but then he's going to just ultimately come in, grapple his way to win a decision, and that's all he's going to do. And that's why I think we're very clearly going to see a decision here. Colby really could turn it on, I'm sure. Maybe, I don't know if he'll get a decision, but he could easily turn it on, turn up the wrestling to 11 and just win an easy fight by throwing him along the fence. He could do that, but he's not the kind of person that does that. And that's risky and more entertaining, but he can still win by doing this. And that's exactly why he is going to do this, because that's exactly who he is. So in terms of the odds, you got Covington at minus 334, Masvidal at plus 260. I saw a lot of people saying on Twitter too that this is a bit one-sided, more than it should be. I don't really think that's true. I'm a little surprised that it is this high, because I think this is actually a perfect representation of how this is going to go. But I'm a little surprised that people don't think that it's going to be a little bit closer, just based on who we're talking about here. But yeah, so easy choice for a parlay here. Again, I mean, I think there's actually a lot of parlay opportunities on this one, really. And the over-under on this one is at 4.5 rounds, over 4.5 minus 160, under 4.5 plus 125. I mean, you might want to throw a couple bucks on the under. I think the safer one is probably the over, just because of what I said, because Covington's going to use his grappling. And plus, I will say the one thing that I wrote down here that I forgot to mention is that Covington doesn't get finished really by punches. He was finished by Usman, but honestly, he probably could have maybe kept fighting. It was kind of that the ref stopped it, and that was in the final round after getting smashed. So Covington's not going to get KO'd here. Masvidal's definitely not going to get KO'd. The only finish that I can see is that maybe Covington will get a submission, but I don't think he's really going to be wanting to go for that. I just don't think that's entertaining enough for him, so I don't think he's going to do that. Just based on his personality alone, I don't think he's going to do that. That's why I'm saying we're probably going to be seeing a decision here. So the minus 160 makes the most sense to me. But if you think maybe somebody's going to get a wild finish in there, I'm not opposed to doing the plus 125. Now, we'll talk about a couple of prelims before we head out here. The first one, like I said, honestly, I could talk about all of these ones, but I'll just talk about 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. The first one, Dustin Jacoby, Michael Oleksiejczuk, opening up the card. They open up the card. Amazing light heavyweight bout. We've got a streaking kickboxer here, Dustin Jacoby, against a rising contender, Oleksiejczuk. Jacoby is an alumni of the Contender Series back in 2020. And even though he's actually pretty recent to the UFC, he's made a splash and he has not lost yet. He's got 4 wins and a draw. Amazing. And not only that, he hasn't just been successful in the octagon, he's also been very successful in kickboxing. So he's just a very, very good striker all around. As for Mikel, he's also got 4 UFC wins on his resume, but he's also got a couple of losses. And that is to OSP and Jimmy Crute. To me, this is actually, I would say this is a pretty close one. Like a lot of ones on this card, actually, this is a pretty close one. I think it's going to be tight. Neither one of them have really shown much grappling experience here. So I would say we're going to be seeing this one stay on the feet. And thanks to his kickboxing experience, I would say Jacoby probably has an edge on the feet there. So I'm going to give him the decision choice on there. Plus, he's got the longer win streak. He's also got a draw. That draw that I talked about was actually against Ion Cutelaba. And Cutelaba is also one of the best strikers in the division. So to keep up with him, that's saying quite a bit. So I think Jacoby has the edge here. I'm going Jacoby by decision because I don't think either one of them is going to get a finish here. So if you go towards the odds, all the way up to the top here, minus 200 for Jacoby, plus 160 for Oleksiejczuk. Like I said, it's pretty close. I don't know if I'd put this in a parlay, but I would put money on the minus 200. Those are still great odds to make some money off of. The over-under on this one is at 2.5. The over is at plus 100, and the under is at minus 128. Like I said, I see this as a decision. So plus 100, fantastic odds. Throw money on that all day. That's fantastic. Definitely putting some money on that. Moving along. Amazing fight. This really could have been on the main card. Really even should have been. Definitely should be above Greg Hardy and Spivak. I can tell you that. You've got Tim Elliott, Tagir Ulanbekov, 2 ranked flyweights. Ulanbekov is 15th, Elliott 13th. I can't wait to see this. You love the flyweights, fast and furious all day long. I mean, they're so amazing to watch. Elliott, been entertaining people since 2012, briefly left in 2015, but was back actually on the Ultimate Fighter because that was when they were kind of reintroducing the flyweight division. So yeah, he was on the Ultimate Fighter and actually ended up losing the Ultimate Fighter to one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, definitely the greatest flyweight of all time, Demetrius Johnson. Since then, he's been, a bit up and down with 4-5 record, but 3 of those losses were in a 12-month period, which is where he fought Askar Askarov, Brandon Royval, and Davison Figueiredo. So he also bounced back from that with 2 wins, but then he lost his last one to Nicolau just a few months ago. Ulanbekov, definitely not as experienced, but he sits at a record of 13-1 with a 2-0 record in the UFC. And likely the most important feature that he has is that he's a classic Dagestani wrestler, just in a tinier package. And that's why this is one of the most exciting ones of the night, because Tim Elliott is amazing, but you've got Ulanbekov, who is Dagestani and who is very, very talented and undefeated in the UFC so far. What was I going to say here? It's, it is a coin toss, I would say. Elliott obviously has the experience edge, which is important. It's very important in the flyweight division. But Tagir is slightly younger, 5 years younger, and has a slight reach advantage, and really has the confidence and momentum of somebody with a 13-1 record from Dagestan. So he's got all that going for him. And it should be said that most of Elliott's 12 losses, yes, he does have 12 losses, have been by submission. And Tagir obviously is a grappler, so he struggles with that. All of those slight edges, plus that edge on the ground, I'm giving it to Ulanbekov. What was I going to say here? I'd say the most likely thing here is going to be Ulanbekov by a tight decision, because that's really what both of them have been getting a lot. They've been getting a lot of decisions, but a submission is definitely not out of the question here. Tagir definitely could get one here. So I'm going Ulanbekov by decision, but if you want to go Ulanbekov by, submission, or even like a ground and pound TKO, that makes sense. The odds, plus 200 for Tim Elliott, minus 250 for Ulanbekov. I'm a little surprised that it's actually that one-sided, but again, we're talking about somebody from Dagestan, and it doesn't matter who we're talking about. If they're from that area, they're going to be wildly favored in the odds, probably more than they should be. So you could even go the upset on this. Like I said, it's close. It's a coin toss. You could go with Elliott plus 200. I wouldn't even be mad at that. But Ulanbekov does make a lot of sense just because of all those little things adding up. Minus 250 for Ulanbekov. I'm not opposed to either one. You could even throw that in a parlay. I'm not opposed to that. But I would say that's... actually, I don't know. I'm not even sure if that is one of the riskier ones. But at minus 250, it might bring down those parlay odds a little bit. The over-under on this one. Over is at minus 180. Under is at plus 140. I mean, they're all seeing a decision just like I am. It makes a lot of sense. So, minus 180 makes a lot of sense. But like I said, considering Elliott has been submitted quite a bit and Ulanbekov is a grappler, you could certainly see it being under 2.5 rounds. So plus 140 also might not be a terrible idea. Next up, Umar Nurmagomedov. If you recognize that name, I would hope you do. It is actually, I know we've said this before, but this is actually Khabib's cousin. The other guy we talked about, like I said, not Khabib's cousin. This guy, Umar, actually is his cousin. And Khabib will actually be in the corner this time. And that is against Brian Kelleher. And he's sitting at 13-0, Nurmagomedov, obviously. And he's just got one win in the UFC so far. I mean, only one fight in the UFC so far. And that is against Sergey Morozov. And in classic Dagestani style, he's gotten 3 wins by submission in his last 3. And you should also know Brian Kelleher at this point, really. He's been in the UFC since 2016, been one of the most exciting people here the whole time. I love Brian Kelleher. Everybody should love Brian Kelleher. He is so entertaining, so very entertaining. Sadly, though, the fights have not really gone his way. Record of 7-5 in the UFC, though. It should be interesting. Actually, no. It should be said, though, that most of those losses were to men that have at some point been in the top 15. And because I do think, and I think most people should think, that Umar is going to be in the top 15, that's why I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov on this one. And you got to go with Umar on this one. Because, yeah, he's going to be in the top 15, and that's just another person that Brian Kelleher is sadly going to lose to, even though I love the guy. He's very entertaining. But it should be said, this is for sure, Umar's toughest test yet, and it's not even close. The odds are very, very one-sided on this, but you got to keep in mind, again, and I just mentioned this in the last one, you're going to see that every single time that you've got a Dagestani fighter that is coached by Khabib. Khabib yet to lose as a coach. Get the fuck out of here, Loki. He's being very irritating right now. Get out of here. Stop. Besides the obvious standard reach advantage or standard advantage that Umar has on the ground, I mean, he's obviously going to have an advantage on the ground every single time. He's also got a 5-inch reach advantage and obviously comes in undefeated at 13-0 as well. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as people think that it's going to be, but Kelleher did show in his last fight that he's got a strong ground game. He does. He does. So we could, it's still going to be one-sided, but I don't think we're going to see it insanely one-sided. It's not going to be like Bobby Green and Islam. It's not going to be like that, I don't think. It's going to be slightly closer. That being said, though, I can definitely see Umar getting a finish in this one just because they're that good. He is that good. So we could see a finish. But I could also see a decision here. That is not out of the question at all. So what do we see in the odds here? Plus 500. Plus 500 for Kelleher here, and minus 750 for Nurmagomedov. I do not think under any circumstance that somebody who's had one fight in the UFC fighting a veteran should ever be minus 750. I don't think that at all. I don't think he deserves to be minus 750. I would have said minus 300 range. That would make a lot more sense. But, I would still include this in a parlay. It still makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Although that could really tank a parlay and not give much value back to it. I don't know. But I would still do it just because I think he's still pretty easily going to win. I'm going to hour and a half in. Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, yeah. And the over-under on this, 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is at minus 134. The under 2.5 is at plus 105. Considering we think it's going to be a finish and he's that one-sided in the odds, it's definitely not out of the question that you could put in plus 105 at under 2.5. That's certainly reasonable to do. Actually, why not even do that? That makes a lot of sense. But over, we could easily see a dominant a dominant decision too by Umar at minus 134. You could go either way on this, bet with your heart on this one. After that, honestly, very exciting. And this also could be on the main card and really could headline its own main event. Marina Rodriguez and Xiaonan Yan Xiaonan. I don't know. You could go either way with that. You either say it the English way or the Chinese way, whatever. Yan Xiaonan. Here we've got the first high profile women's fight of the year so far. Amazing. Like I said, this could be a co-main event or even the main event of their own card. We actually last saw Rodriguez headlining a card in October with Mackenzie Dern, and that was one of the most entertaining women's fights of the year. It really was. It was dominant, but it was entertaining. Definitely one of the most impressive women's performances that I've ever seen. If you take away, obviously, you ignore Shevchenko and Nunes, one of the most impressive performances. Absolutely dominated Mackenzie Dern. And by the way, that is very impressive considering Dern only had one loss going into that fight. So you're talking about somebody who's only lost once and absolutely dominated her for every second on the feet, which is hard to do again because Dern, probably the best women's jiu-jitsu fighter on the planet. So absolutely incredible at jiu-jitsu. And Rodriguez managed to actually keep the entire fight on the feet, except for one round, managed to keep it on the feet the entire time. That is incredible to do against somebody as experienced at getting people to the ground as Mackenzie Dern. So, if Dern isn't getting you to the ground, nobody's getting you to the ground. And like I said, dominated her on the feet. As for Jan, I don't know if I've ever seen her fight before. Actually, funny enough, both of their last losses were to Carla Esparza. So they're both coming in with basically the exact same kind of experience in the UFC. Jan sitting at 13-2, Rodriguez sitting at 15-1, and then 2 draws. So very close, very close. Rodriguez currently sitting at 3rd spot, while Xiaonan is sitting in 4th. So again, another very, very, very close fight. But because of what I saw, because Rodriguez couldn't really even be taken down by an expert like Mackenzie Dern and was that unbelievably good on the feet, I think we're definitely seeing Rodriguez here win a decision. I don't think she's going to get a finish because Jan is very tough, but with that striking advantage, because I think she's one of the best women strikers in the UFC, definitely in that division. I believe that's the strawweight division. I think. I didn't write it down. I think it's strawweight division. I would say she's the best striker in the strawweight division, honestly. She's that good. She is very, very good. Except for maybe Esparza, because she did lose to Esparza. But other than that though. Yeah, so I'm going, it is strawweights. I just saw that. I'm going for a decision here. Again, because of their long history of decisions, both of them have a lot of decisions. Plus, we're talking about the strawweights. There's not usually too many finishes anyway. So I would say we're going to be seeing a decision here. And I'm going for Rodriguez on this one. The odds, -275 Rodriguez, +214 for Jan. I thought it would be a little closer than that, to be honest, because Jan should not be discounted in this one. That's for sure. But Rodriguez does look like the better one here. Maybe even throw that into a parlay. Like I said, there's so many parlay opportunities. Make a couple of different parlays, I would say, just to kind of save yourself. Maybe do 3 or 4 different 3-leg or 4-leg parlays. That's what I would say to do. And then, of course, I always like to do one that's like $5 maybe, where I throw in 6 or 7 different fighters that I think have a very good chance of winning. And we've cashed that in a couple times, by the way. But yeah. So, a few different parlay options. And the over-under on this, obviously favoring the over 2.5. That's at -267. The under is +200. I mean, at over 267, -267 for the over. It makes a lot of sense. We're definitely seeing a decision here. Maybe stay away from it. Maybe throw it in another parlay. It makes a lot of sense that this is going to go to a decision. That's all I'm saying. So what do we look at for parlays here before we go? Let's see. Maybe Jacoby. I don't think so, though. Honestly, I think that's a separate one. Ulanbekov, fantastic. Nurmagomedov, easy choice to throw that in a parlay. Who else here? Rodriguez, yes, -275. Throw that in a parlay. Spivak, throw that in a parlay. Holland, the best choice to put on a parlay at -325. And finally, Covington, throw that in a parlay for sure. And honestly, at -167, I do not normally throw odds that are that close in a parlay, but for RDA at -167, that's so good because I think he's so very clearly going to win that is an amazing one to throw in a parlay. And I mean, you've got quite a few options, combinations for parlays there, but that's who I would be throwing into them, are those ones that I just said. That is it for this week. It's been a long one. And guess what? We're going to have an even longer one next week. We've got UFC 272 to talk about, of course. We've also got a Canadian one to talk about because Unified MMA is this week. It is on Friday. I will be watching that and I will be talking about it next week. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I might even have to not talk about some fights. I don't know. I really keep saying that. I really should though, because these are pretty long. So maybe I might have to cut down on some of these things. But we have so much fun here. I'm having so much fun talking about these. And all these fights are so good, especially on this pay-per-view. And then, of course, next week, we've got another event as well. I'm trying to think of who that is. And I can't remember. So we're not going to mention it. But that's actually UFC Vegas 50, I believe. That's pretty cool. UFC Vegas 50 next week. So yeah, we've got that. We've got UFC 272 and Unified MMA. I think it's number 43. Take away the ticker there. That's it for me. If you want to follow me, see what we're doing on Twitter and Instagram, that's where I give out my bonuses. I also do some tweeting during the events, maybe some stuff throughout the week if I hear anything crazy that I want to talk about. That's all below. If you want to see any of the other sports stuff, you can check out Area 51. I've got the hat on, of course, as always. And you can always check out the link. It's also below, and it is going to be in the next slide that I will put after this. And that would be for the Bet99 promotion to get that extra sign up bonus. And it also just leads you to the website. So why not just click on it to see what else we're talking about or read the articles of this. If you didn't want to watch the whole thing for an hour and 40 minutes, I write everything down and make it a bit shorter, make it entertaining to read. That's all on the website as well and is posted every Thursday and Sunday before the event and after the event. And I'm going to do that for Unified MMA as well if you want to check that out. I will see you next time. I cannot wait to watch this card. See ya.